the last video about brain fog that you will need. Did I wait for this fog to make this video? Maybe I did. So there will be two challenges in this video, because the first one is it's freezing and I want to make this a one-shot video. So if you see me make any mistakes or any cuts, the challenge, well, I mean, I can make mistakes, but I cannot make any cuts. So that's the challenge. And the second challenge is you are going to watch this video without me making any flashy cuts. And that's also important. We'll get to that later because it relates a lot to brain fog. So I will be talking about five important things that has to do with your mental clarity and your brain fog. The first time I learned about brain fog was when I was about 16, and I found it out through searching around on YouTube. And I think this is also dangerous because it can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you start to recognize it and then it starts to become worse and worse. But eventually I got rid of brain fog, and I will tell you what helped the most for me in the last step, in the last of the 5 points. So let's get started. I started Googling and searching on Reddit. There were many people all saying the same thing, and I also read the book The Brain Fog Fix, and they are also saying the same thing. It all has to do with the functioning of your brain and the health of your brain. So the number one most important thing is sleep. And personally, I used to have this magical triangle of clarity where for me it's sleep, meditation and a little bit of coffee, which just makes my brain function properly. So if any of these three is lacking for me personally, that means that I'm not very clear, but at least you can try to make your own magical triangle of clarity of your mind. But sleep is the most important thing, first of all. And also Andrew Huberman posted a tweet last week where he says, if you want to find out how someone is doing, ask them how they slept. So that's the first important thing, sleep, to get optimal brain function and get rid of all the fog around you. Now the second thing, very important, when you were a baby you were about 80% water, and when you grow up and you're becoming an elderly you might be 50% water. So water, the older you get, the drier you get, but water is really important. We come from the water, we somehow during our evolution crawled out of the ocean, and it's literally life. Like I remember driving up the highest motorable road in the world in the Himalayas. It was a dry, dead desert, and there was one green little sliver coming down the mountains, and that is where the water was coming from. So water is life. So this third thing after sleep and water is exercise. There's a Dutch neuroscientist or brain scientist who talks about how eating custard, or in Dutch it's vla, for elderly actually increases their chance of Alzheimer, because they don't have to chew anymore. So even chewing for elderly on their food can be a good thing because it gets the blood flowing in your brain. And so you can imagine that even if chewing already does something beneficial for your brain, then definitely taking a walk or running or whatever you're gonna do will have a positive impact on your brain functioning and get rid of the brain fog in your mind. So we have sleep, water, exercise, and then we have something called supernormal stimuli. So if I would be coming back here in the spring there will be birds laying eggs. And what they found is many species, humans included, are taught to look at very specific signs for what they should care about. So in our case, it could be sugar or fat or super inflated Instagram models with very round curves, and you know, but in the case of these birds here, they actually did an experiment, and if they would put a fake very bright blue egg in the bird's nest between the normal blue less bright eggs, the bird would only take care of this super bright blue egg. And that is because for the bird it signals that it is a healthy, more important egg. So there's no limit to this. Also, if you look at peacocks, the bigger their tail, the more potent they are. So scientists tricked them and made a fake peacock, and they would actually be more attracted to those. I mean, not the scientists, but the peacock, of course, would be more attracted to the bigger, faker peacock. And the point of this is that things like porn or sugar or fat or all these, you know, super normal stimuli that the caveman or cavewoman inside of you is, you know, trained to love. There's no limitation to it. There's no, you know, you just want more of those, and that's going to create brain fog, these super normal stimuli. And that's also the reason why part of this video, the challenge is for you to finish watching this, because I'm not going to make any fast-paced flashy edits. It's gonna be one shot. So yeah, these supernormal stimuli, it's important to start noticing them in your environment at least. So now you know about them. And the last thing I already mentioned, and this is the thing that for me made the biggest impact from going from having brain fog to not having brain fog, and currently my thumb is almost freezing off, is sugar. Because there's basically two things in the human diet that we are consuming that we just do not need, and that is alcohol and sugar, or at least refined sugars. All the other things we need, cholesterol, fat, we need some carbs, we need proteins of course, but like refined sugars, they peak really quickly, they peak your blood sugar levels really quickly, and then you crash, and this is just making your brain foggy. It's really like terrible for your focus. And when I started to, I mean, you know, you're still going to be eating carbs, but you can check out the glycemic index, which is the index which tells you how fast the sugars are going to be taken up into your bloodstream. And things like oats have a much lower glycemic index, so they are not peaking this much, but they are more steadily providing sugar to your brain, because your brain needs sugar because that's its fuel. But you want to avoid like swinging back and forth constantly. And something that also helped me was, even if you're eating a little bit faster carbs, it's very much more efficient to spread them out over the day instead of not eating for a few hours and then eating a lot during lunch, and then you're gonna crash later. So more spread out, more constant blood sugar level. That is very important for, well, your clarity. And yeah, of course, like what I just mentioned, alcohol doesn't help, but you know, it can be fun, of course. So don't be too uptight about that. Yeah, so sleep, water, exercise, supernormal stimuli, and sugar. Those were the things that can really improve the quality of your brain. And it's so easy to overlook these super obvious things that are good for you, because it doesn't even make sense to upgrade any other any other productivity thing in your life if you're not doing the basics, you know. And probably you've heard these things before, but that's the whole point. Like, it's easy to overlook them. So well, I'm glad about how this one-shot video went. I'm feeling happy about it. I hope you've been able to finish watching this video without all the flashy cuts. The real fog is still here, but hopefully if you put these 5 things into practice, the brain fog will slowly subside out of your life, and yeah, you will have a clear mind. Thanks for watching, and I'm gonna go home and warm myself up with some more tea.